Good afternoon, and for some of you, good morning or good evening. I'm excited to welcome you to the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week web series, where we, in conjunction with the Global Parliament of Mayors and Masdar City, are hosting a series on talent and cities and sustainability and how those come together. Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week is an Abu Dhabi event hosted each year in January, bringing together thousands and thousands of delegates, of senior leaders, of presidents and prime ministers, of ministers, of CEOs, and then a lot of people who are just interested in a more sustainable future and want to see the technologies and the people that are driving that. And this is a lead up to that in some of the people that we're dealing with and working with on creating that sustainable future. I am delighted here today to have a very distinguished panel. Her Excellency Grace Mary Mugasa, from Uganda, who is, hang on, I'm making sure you get your title just right, the Minister of State for Public Service. His Excellency Ricardo Rio from Braga, Portugal, who is also representing us from the Global Parliament of Mayors, and Albi Barganaro, who is the Vice President of Global City Partnerships at MasterCard. So we have the national level, the city level, and the corporate support structure that are all focused on, they'll be at this afternoon focusing on talent and sustainabilities. And I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Rio for just a minute to say a few words about the Global Parliament of Mayors and the role that they play in supporting talent development in, I say, mid-sized cities globally. Mayor Rio.
Well, good morning, Steve. Good morning, Steve, and greetings to all the members of the panel, my dear colleague Grace Mary and Abi Balkanega, and as well, thank you to Abu Dhabi Sustainable Week and obviously to the collaboration of the City of Masdar as well to this initiative. The Global Parliament of Mayors is an organization that gathers mayors from all over the world, and that was inspired by Benjamin Barber, the author of the book that some of you may know, If Mayors Rule the World. Well, we don't want to rule the world, but what we believe is that the role of local authorities is crucial for the achievement of many goals that are global, that are crucial for the quality of life of its citizens, and that led us to be engaged in so many topics that are international hot themes, like climate change, like migrations, like security, like health issues, or like talent. And GPM Talent Cities is a project that has been launched recently and whose principle behind is that we want to make sure that the education and learning opportunities available to citizens fit with what cities need. Joining the two and ensuring all citizens have access to the skills needed presents not only a great opportunity for cities, but obviously for the citizens and for the employers all over the world. The GPM Talent Cities is about helping mayors and city leaders to share experiences on how to do this and to help cities to realize their full potential through the power of their people, so we can say. Talent Cities is, I think, an exemplary and outstanding for the work concept of the GPM, but is mostly through that directly approach to the cities that we can capture the questions in all the dimensions and answer together. The needs for the labor market are brought into line with the existing qualifications of urban citizenship in a multidimensional process. And for that, I give you the example of my city, Braga in Portugal. We have been working with Jerry Burton, the real mentor of the GPM Talent Cities, and I could say the leader of this project, to build an international ecosystem of talent in which we can include all the partners in this project, companies, public institutions, universities, and to meet the needs of the people. With this strong foundation, Braga tried to innovate new approaches in the area of talent development, serving as a global model. And obviously, the pandemic of COVID-19, like in every other area, has delayed some of our projects, but I think that the city of Braga managed to advance in some particular fields and are now creating specific partnerships all over the world. And that's how we come to the cities of the future. Cities of the future are a layer of cities which may not be so known like Braga, but provide quality of life, best access to innovation and education, and more reasonable cost structure. And these talent cities of the future are as good or a better way to strengthen and to collaborate on opportunities at the global level, like in this initiative that gathers here today.
Thank you, Mayor Rio. And I'd like to start with Grace Mary. because you have, I think, unique perspective here, and that you're now currently the Minister of State for Public Service, but previous to serving in the national government, you were a mayor. You were a mayor, and not of the capital city, but you were mayor of one of the cities in Uganda. Why don't you give us a little perspective of how the national government can support cities, and what you were looking for when you were the mayor in terms of the national government, in terms of developing and retaining talent at the city level?
Yeah, thank you very much, our moderator. Indeed, before I became a Minister for Public Service, I was a mayor of Hoima City. And indeed, I was the second vice chairperson of the Global Parliament of Mayors. And we conceived this idea together when we were in Bristol with my friend Jory Barton. And she ably partnered with Global Parliament of Mayors to make sure we talk about talents, we profile talents, and we enhance talents in cities, because it is a development booster. And indeed, if we identify properly the talents and upskill them, the cities will regenerate a lot of revenue. And as a national, first of all, talents are natural skills and abilities. You may be born with them, but sometimes you learn them quickly. And we call people naturally talented, those who are naturally talented. And these talents always boost organizational performance. Now, what are the examples of talents? I want to have a quick one, like acting, the artists, the filmmakers, comedians, dancers, graphic designers, painters, those who play instruments, and pottery, singing, woodwork, metalwork, and even entrepreneurs, plus even the academic resume. Those ones are also, all of them are talents. Now, before I joined government, central government, we would use the policies of government, because the Ministry of Education and Sports in Uganda has very good policy of enhancing skills. They call it skills development. And indeed, government has put in scholarship money to make sure all these talents are enhanced. They are built, they want to build capacities of every talent in the school curriculum. We also have a lot of vocational training, but we also learn from outside the classroom. So we have set up peer-to-peer learning. We also learn through e-learning and connectivity, then on-job industrial training, and through music and drama, we also have degrees that are for music and drama. We also have football academies. Therefore, as cities, we would work together with the ministry to make sure we enhance these capacities. And in Uganda, the ministry I serve is human resource management, and we look for talents to make sure we enhance capacities of people, and those with talents can also be able to perform properly and develop this country in terms of the economy.
Well, thank you, Grace Mary. I think that gives a wider perspective than what sometimes when we think of talent in 2022, we think of software engineers. How do we get the next software engineers? But when you mention artists as talent, and musicians as talent, and football players as talent, that it's a much wider scale. So I'd like to ask Mayor Rio, after your introduction, to look at, Grace Mary talked a lot about developing talent and growing it through the school system, but also through e-learning and education. How much of talent retention is about the environment that you're creating, and how much of it is the education system? What does how does the education system and that training work together with the culture and the and the locality that you're trying to create, so that the startups want to be there, so that the people say, I want to live in this city?
Well, Steve, I think that both topics are strongly connected. First of all, because as we are talking in representation of the GPM as well, I think that there is an emergent role of cities as change agents for education, and we need to make that the education can be tailored to reflect city economic growth plans and culture and quality of life. So enabling cities to create and execute their own talent strategies. We are not only looking for software engineers, we are looking for the talent that fits the requirements of growth of each of the territories. And in an era where cities compete with each other to attract the best, mayors have an obligation to put all partners at the same table and to discuss and implement solutions that may allow us to succeed. I really believe cities must not compete with each other, even if competitiveness is part of the game, but rather cooperate and work together to innovate and create new smart talent ecosystems. And that's all about talent cities. The cities have the need to attract investment, but also talent. And for instance, here in Braga, now I used to say that in the past, I was looking for companies to feed the lack of job offers for our citizens. Now we are looking for more and more citizens that can feed the needs of recruitment of the companies that are being settled here. And mayors all across the world are trying to build better conditions to retain and to attract talent, but also there is a need to reshape that scope of talent. And when a mayor and an investment agency receives a potential investor, one of the main questions is precisely, do you have the talent? Do I have the way to feed my needs? And if we want to be an attractive city, we have to work together with all the stakeholders to build a strong environment that can attract that talent and retain it in our territory.
Thank you, Maria. And now I want to, since you mentioned the investors coming, the companies coming, I'd like to talk to Albie from a company that any city would be happy to have part of their environment, MasterCard. And so your role at MasterCard is creating partnerships with cities. But prior to that, you were part of one of a small city in upstate New York. One of the world's largest and best known cities, and you were actually involved at the city level before moving over to MasterCard to create those partnerships. So why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of what the private sector is doing to partner with cities, but also what the cities are looking for from the private sector, and specifically something as you are representing MasterCard.
Yeah, so a couple of different perspectives here that I can share. So early in my municipal career, I actually worked for the city of San Francisco, and my job was to build talent programs for the city of San Francisco in order to attract top technology talent to work for the city of San Francisco in one of the most competitive technology hiring markets, I would arguably in the world, which is the city of San Francisco. And so one of the things that I really thought about and I really focused on was the city as a platform. And I think the city has an opportunity not just to do hiring and to create talent programs, but also to be a platform where careers are launched. And so I think that cities that are looking at their talent really, really early on and starting to incubate, facilitate partnerships with academia and non-traditional training and development partners long-term are kind of better positioned to get these companies to make long-term investments in recruiting, hiring, training, et cetera. So I think it's a process. And I think that, identifying companies that are willing to partner with you and I think the most important thing that companies can do, I think with cities is to kind of share their outlook and their vision for the future is what 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, what are the talent profiles that you're going to be looking for? What do those look like? And how can you partner with us as a city to better prepare our residents to fill those talent needs? The marketplace has also kind of changed. The working world has changed in the way that people work. Now you've got people working remotely. And so as a company, you can also look at what are some of the talent hotspots around the world where we're going to be recruiting from, because there are talent pools that we can recruit from where it makes it, a little bit less of a lift for us to identify that top talent. And so also kind of that's going back to like where the city can be a platform is to create these talent pools where companies can recruit from. So it isn't just, I think, about attracting these companies to come to your city, but just attracting companies to recruit from your city, because there's a lot of contribution that can be made by just having a robust talent pool within your city. And so it's kind of a little bit of everything, but I do like what Her Excellency said about musicians and artists and athletes. It isn't just about like technology talent or manufacturing talent or just one vertical. I think it's a little bit more holistic, is how are we serving our residents as a platform to incubate, develop, and foster talent among our cities? And what are those pockets? What are we really good at? Identifying what a city is really good at, and making more investments in those areas. And so I think it's kind of a two-way road. I don't think it's just about industry coming into a city and recruiting from, moving an office to, et cetera. I think it's a little bit more collaborative than that. So I think that from an industry perspective, I think it's about that partnership and less about only looking at, opening up an office there or moving in an investment vehicle there.
No, thank you for that. And I think, as a native Californian, although one in Abu Dhabi for the past 13 years at Masdar, one of the reasons why San Francisco was able to attract, maybe not, I don't know much into the city government, but attracted tech companies to come and headquarter up there instead of down in Palo Alto or Sunnyvale, where they might have traditionally been, were the artists and the musicians. That there was a culture in the city that people wanted to be a part of. And that you may be a software engineer, or you may be starting that you may work for a technology company, but you want to live in a city that has a vibrant art scene, a vibrant cultural scene, a local music community, and that keeping that there is very important. So I want to go back to Grace Mary and ask about Uganda specifically, because one of the things that, obviously everyone does want to attract that digital thought leadership, the people who can drive the new economy, although it's not new anymore, but areas like that. Post-pandemic, we are a lot more connected. Our connectivity tools have gotten so much better. As you mentioned, you can find talent anywhere in the world and connect to that. So from an African point of view, I know we've gone from the city to the state to the continent now, Grace Mary, but someone like Uganda that might have been more cut off and not had some of the connectivity to the wider world 20, 30 years ago, it's certainly there now, and certainly post-pandemic, it's even better. So what can you do to try and use that connectivity to keep the talent that you're growing locally in Uganda, and then at the city level, but using that connectivity?
Thank you very much, Stephen. And about how can Uganda use that connectivity to hit the world? It is true. Uganda, during the COVID pandemic, many people learned to go digital, because even we would not go to offices. People were using the internet to do their work. They use the computer to do their work. And but I have also some reservations, because if you check in the statistics of this country, Uganda, you'll find that the connectivity levels are still very low. The population that is covered by 3G is only 65%. And the population that is covered by LTE 4G is 17%. Nevertheless, there is a lot of connectivity globally, because we are a global village. And indeed, Uganda has started even exporting labor to other countries, more especially in the United Arab Emirates. You know that. Many people are in Abu Dhabi, many people are in UAE, are in Dubai, and other countries in the world. We can see many footballers around the world, and some of them are coming from Uganda. We can see experts, those are doctors, we can see musicians are going all over the world. Then those who are also computer experts. But Uganda is also endowed that we have very good policies the President of the Republic of Uganda, after COVID, has decided to make sure science and technology and innovation are boosted economically so that many people are trained, many people are able to produce things that were supposed to be bought from elsewhere. For example, now the cars, the phones, we are using solar to make sure that we also be productive, be innovative using technology so that we can export to boost our economy.
Thank you, Grace Mary. I think you bring up a very important point, and I want to have Mayor Rio touch on it too, is how do you, the role of talent and retaining talent? How do you create an environment where, yes, the people want to be here and actually want to come here? And Mayor Rio, you obviously are the third largest city in Portugal, but traditionally, I think you probably lost a lot of your talent to Lisbon or to London or Paris or larger cities where people in the past might have thought would have had more opportunity. How do you keep that talent, that homegrown talent at home, and then also say, oh, here are people who might have been in a larger city, but might be priced out of that larger city or want a different sort of lifestyle that a smaller community could offer?
Well, Steve, I think that in the past that was maybe a reality, but currently we are doing it the other way around. We are attracting more and more people from Lisbon. We are attracting even people probably from London or from other sites all over the world. And that has all about with the Talent Cities approach, in which we try to take in responsibility so that we attract people to our cities in order to optimize the talent opportunities, both for the strategy of the city and for the, let's say, the aspirations, the will of the citizens that we are attracting. And I think that to create this specific, let's say, ecosystem of talent, we need a couple of requirements. And the first one was something that you mentioned, the high level of quality of life for everyone, families, young people, singles, seniors. What we have to do is to work in all the aspects of the urban policies. We are talking about schools, we are talking about housing, mobility, green parks, good jobs, culture, leisure time, for instance. Albi mentioned it as well. And for instance, I have to tell you that that is something in which we are very focused, for instance, in Braga, that we are a city known for the quality of life on top of everything else. Then you have to make your city unique. As we say here, Braga is an authentic city. We look at our, let's say, competitive factors and we try to build upon them rather than to turn Braga into another type of city that it isn't. So what we have to do in each of the cities is to identify what makes our city unique, and obviously to present ourselves to the world as using those unique factors as our strengths. And these unique cities are something that need to have a narrative and to attract and to retain talent. For instance, in the latest years, Braga was capable of attracting to our city a couple of thousand inhabitants from Brazil. And we made it by positioning Braga as a friendly and a happy city. For instance, according to the latest Eurobarometer, Braga was the third city in Europe in which their citizens said that they were more happy to live. We had 97% of our citizens saying that they were happy to live in the city of Braga. And that's an incredible figure that obviously attracts others to come here. Then we must develop a community spirit in the city as a platform, as Albi mentioned it, in which we obviously engage citizens, but we also work with other stakeholders that are relevant to talent figure issues and that are engaged together. We are talking about, for instance, universities, because universities are a great part of the talent ecosystems because they themselves attract an important number of people from outside to study in the different levels and degrees. And we need to work with our universities to engage the students that are here, the teachers, the researchers, and to make them part of the talent strategy that we have in our city. Then we obviously have to work with the businesses because they are the ones that create the jobs. It's not the public authorities that do that. And we need to work with them to identify their needs, to obviously also have some sort of promotion of those opportunities. For instance, in Braga, we have a network of business ambassadors that are the biggest exporters and the biggest companies in the city that are themselves visiting card for the city of Braga. And all the strategies that we developed here, like for instance, the project Work in Braga, in which we try to attract people to work here in Braga, was designed and financed even by the business community. And finally, I think that we need to embrace innovation, to promote aggressively the new economy and new ways of creating business. And in Braga, we have the Startup Braga project, and we have a strong link with all the research centers like the International Laboratory of Nanotechnology, the University of Minho. And this work between the research centers, the knowledge centers, and the companies is obviously very important to not only support entrepreneurship, but also to support the big businesses. And I think that, to wrap it up, that talent is an opportunity in and on itself. It's a wide range of talent is the crucial element to attract investment, to develop and to support growth. And other aspects can be added, but obviously talent is the most important of all.
Well,
Stephen, oh, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was going to say he sold me on Braga. I'm ready. I actually love Portugal already, and any Portuguese city is a good one for me. But especially Braga. You had a thought on that, and then I have a specific question for you on what MasterCard is doing with some of these cities. But go ahead.
So what I was just going to kind of emphasize here is I think what Her Excellency and the good mayor are really describing here are how the cities that either they run or that they're working with are creating these ecosystems. And the ecosystems are really kind of centered around the person, around the resident. So it isn't just about the training and the education. Now it's about, like what I was saying, city is a platform where you've got a lot of the elements, which is the connectivity, which is the most important, I think, because we can't assume connectivity. I think Her Excellency made a great point, is there are communities that are still kind of lacking in connectivity, and that's probably one of the most fundamental things for access. And so in order for people to kind of progress, whether it's in their training, in their education, or just access to information, it's important for them to have the connectivity. But I think it's a little more holistic than that, right? It's also about feeding the spirit. So it's about what your city offers in terms of culture and the resident experience, what it's like to live in the city, what it's like to participate, and what there is to like kind of enjoy when you're not working, right? Especially for people that are working different shifts. Now that we're working from home, the world is a little more global. And so time zones, I think, matter less, but enjoyment, culture, access, opportunity, et cetera, all of those things are still probably more relevant than ever, because people are now, as the mayor was describing, leaving their cities less to go seek opportunity elsewhere. I come from a city in Texas where opportunity is pretty limited. It's a small town in West Texas. And in order for me to kind of grow as a person, I had to move all over the place. I've lived in every corner of the United States, from Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Miami, Arizona, all over California. And so I had to do that, I think, to seek opportunity. And I don't have to do that anymore. Now I get to live wherever I want. And so now I'm not making a choice by what industry is in what city. The choices I'm making are based on the quality of life and what living here means to me and what it looks like for my family and the type of access to things that I enjoy that I have. So the choices now that employees are making, or people that want to be employed, are much different than before. It's less of a commuter's world and it's more of a community world. And so that's kind of the perspective I think that both the mayor and Her Excellency are bringing, which I think is probably the most important dynamic in that talent conversation.
Albie, I think that's an excellent point. And one thing we talk a lot about at Masdar is community, and how do we build that community? And Grace Mary mentioned that Uganda is exporting people to the UAE. Well, so is the United States. I am an export to the UAE, and I've also done that because of both the opportunities, but also I think what we're trying to do at Masdar that has really attracted me to it, in terms of particularly the sustainability and how important that is for the agenda. And I'd like to go back to Grace Mary here on sustainability and talent, and we've talked a lot about the developing countries that are, have not contributed to the carbon emissions and to climate change in the way that the rich world has. But you have an opportunity now to bypass some of the, carbon emissions that we have. But you also at a point where, if you're lacking the basic connectivity, if you're lacking the 24/7 energy, that you first want to get that energy done. You have to reach a certain living standard before then you become more concerned about, oh, what is our impact on the environment? How are we contributing to that? Is there a way that you're looking at bringing in, developing talent around reducing carbon output, around reducing climate change, around introducing more sustainability and renewable energy into cities across Uganda, and how that relates to, how do we make sure we have the talent in what, to my mind, is one of the world's most important challenges over the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Sustainability and how we train our people to curb climate change, carbon emissions. Yes, it is true. We even have very good laws here in Uganda. And how are we training our people? We are training our people to use, recently those who were in the televisions here locally, they saw how the President of the Republic of Uganda was advocating for electric cars, because electric cars cannot emit a lot of carbon. Then when there is oil and gas that is discovered in this country, oil and gas that is discovered, and we have very good policies to make sure the emissions do not affect the environment. So we are working towards safeguarding the environment, but at the same time also training our people how to be very cautious about climate change. In Uganda, we also have deliberate effort to make sure we plant trees, we save the ecosystem, so that if there is any shock that comes with climate effects because of carbon emissions, and the trees and other ecosystems will be able to absorb that. And in this country, we are training foresters, we are training people, environmentalists, and in every project that we undertake in the country, we do environmental impact assessment to make sure the environment is safeguarded, because we depend on the nature of our world, of this earth, to sustain the future. We are training people not to misuse things that can cause climate change. We want to train them to make sure we don't misuse our environment to cause climate changes that can affect our peoples in the urban. If we don't do the planning very well, you can see when it rains, many people die because we have not used our environment very well. Therefore, as cities in Uganda, we have a forum of Urban Authorities Association where we discuss everything, including climate change, including carbon emissions. And we have a Ministry of Innovation and Technology where they have even started producing solar vehicles. That means in Uganda, slowly we shall get rid of carbon emissions, and we have an environment that favors the whole world. We are developing talents around innovation and production so that everybody can benefit from innovations and the talents.
Thank you. I want to point out to everybody that Mayor Rio has won the World Mayor Prize for Sustainability in 2021. And I know that, so I know sustainability is close to your heart. and that it is, and that often Portugal leads the world in terms of renewable energy output as a percentage, and often hits 100% renewable energy at different days throughout the year. What do you see as your role in the juxtaposition between talent and sustainability, and making sure that you have the people in Braga that will help take us to carbon neutrality by 2050, which is only 28 years away? Interesting enough, most of us have been alive longer than 28 years. So 28 years is a short time for the globe to get there. And I know that you want to position your city as one of the leading cities in getting to net zero. Can you tell us a little bit about the plans and the talent that will take to get there?
Of course, and I'll start by saying that that very honoring award that I received was mostly linked with my commitment, my personal commitment, and the commitment of the city of Praga with the use of the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a strategy plan for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We have continuous monitoring of the level of achievement that we have. I am the rapporteur in the European Committee of the Regions on the Sustainable Development Goals, and Braga itself has also been participating together with other European cities and international cities in the sharing of best practice on how we can bring the Sustainable Development Goals to the management of the city and the engagement of all the stakeholders. As you mentioned, we are all being far behind our goals. We don't have much time to recover. And I think that the big twist on that has everything to do about talent, because for two reasons. First of all, because when we're talking about these goals, we are not talking about something abstract that are only important for international organizations or the countries or the cities. We are talking about things that affect the life of the citizens and that want to improve the quality of life of people. And so green and digital innovation is everything about people. And also for the second reason, because as we don't have much time, we need to focus on innovation. And to focus on innovation, we need to have the knowledge and the focus from the people on finding these new investments and innovative solutions and approaches that wherever we may be talking on climate change, on management of energy, on the production of water, for instance, can find solutions to some of the challenges that we are dealing with. And to do that, we need obviously to have the talent, and to have the talent, we need to have the school systems adapted to not only foster that innovative capacity, but obviously give the people the skills to fulfill that innovative approach. And I think that what we have been watching all over the world, for instance, in Europe and obviously in the Emirates, in Abu Dhabi or Dubai or other sites, the government and the educational departments are fully aware of this need that we have to change, and are needing and are willing to do it more faster than before. And so we need to prepare our kids, the current generation, to as soon as possible be the turning points in this trajectory that we are having, and that is not so good for the planet as a whole and for the people itself.
Thank you, Maria. I think we're running low on time, but Albie, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk specifically about how MasterCard is supporting cities in making that, in becoming more green, in becoming more sustainable, and what your commitment to sustainability is as a company, then how your role specifically in global city partnerships is supporting that transition.
Yeah, so my job at MasterCard essentially is to bring a global community of cities together. So in our network, we have over 330 cities. And one of the things that I do is I kind of look at some of the critical themes that are happening across the world, whether those are challenges that cities are having or opportunities that are created, one of those being sustainability. And so what I do is I curate discussions between cities where they can share best practices, where we can bring in best-in-class solutions from partners, and really kind of just put together thought leadership opportunities for cities to get together and say, okay, so what are we doing to tackle the challenge around sustainability? One of the things that I've noticed is, you know, same thing that I was mentioning earlier was like the city as a platform. So cities have the opportunity today to not just educate residents on sustainable practices, but also to incentivize sustainable practices, whether that's through the use of carbon credits, utility credits, or another, any other type of benefits for residents practicing sustainable behaviors. And so one of the things I'm focused on is figuring out how I can play a role in putting that all together for them. Because one of the challenges sometimes is kind of formulating all of these projects and programs. So I think it's up to me to kind of look out into the world and see what cities are doing well at this, bringing them into the conversation and have them share with some of our global community. And so I think the biggest thing that I can do, I think, is curate these discussions, bring all the resources to the room, and share them with my global community of cities and everyone else that's watching, while I figure out how can I play a more active role in the rewarding system for sustainable behaviors. As a data and payments company, I have access to data and to programs and rewards programs, et cetera, that I can partner with cities on to help develop some of these programs and to help incentivize residents for sustainable behavior. So I think, I definitely, our community, MasterCard and City Possible have a significant role to play. I think we're kind of in that now, but I think first and foremost, we got to kind of scan the globe and see what is best in class. What are the cities that are best at doing this, and how do we connect them with the rest of our community so they can share?
Well, I mean, I want to thank the panel, and I think that, for me, this went in a very interesting direction. Because when you talk about talent, often it's just a discussion of how do we get software engineers and software companies? How do we get the next Apple or Google or Facebook to come to my city? But what we started off in the very first question, Minister Grace Mary brought up, talent is not just about software engineers. It's about artists and musicians and football players, and it's a well-rounded community. And Mayor Rio reminded us that, one of the reasons people want to come to Braga is for that community and the culture that he's creating in that city that makes it attractive, not just to people who are growing up there, but to people who want to come to something special and unique. And also for Albie, who reminding us that, hey, I can go anywhere I want to now. I can go, but I want to be in a place where there is that culture, where there are those people, and that cities are still about people. Cities are still about citizens. Cities are not just about software companies, but that all of us need to come together and create that more sustainable future, more community-oriented future, where we do have that both digital connectivity, but also a personal connectivity. And I think that was the message that came through from all three of our panelists to me in a way that I actually wasn't really expecting it to. So I feel like I learned quite a bit here. I really want to thank Global Parliament Mayors and Talent Cities, and both of our participants mentioned Jerry Burton, but I also want to thank her personally for all the hard work that she's done in putting this together. And then, of course, for Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week in sponsoring this event, bringing in a fantastic series of panelists. We will be doing this in conjunction with major global sustainability events. So we will be having a session at COP27 in Egypt this year, and then, of course, at Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, which runs each January in Abu Dhabi, and is really the leading sustainability event each year, bringing together pre-COVID more than 35,000 people, and we hope to get to those numbers again this year. So I want to really thank our participants on the panel and for everyone who helped put this together.